They say love doesn't start with fireworks, but with Trevor, it felt like the sky exploded the moment we met. It was at a charity gala for the Children's Hospital, one of those events where everyone tries too hard to impress and nobody really notices the nurses in scrubs hiding by the punch table. But that night, someone did. Trevor Brennan. He walked up to me like he'd known me forever. No cheesy pickup lines, no smug grin. Just that warm, confident energy that seemed to quiet everything around him. He smiled, held out his hand, and said, "You don't look like you want to be here either." And just like that, the ice broke. We spent the whole night talking about work, about dreams, about why the world feels too fast and too cold sometimes. He made me feel seen, not just pretty, not just useful, but real. After that night, I couldn't stop smiling. I remember walking into the nurses' lounge and one of my coworkers whispering, "Mia, you're glowing. Who is he?" And I said the name like it meant something already. Trevor. He sent flowers, called every night, texted me good morning without fail. When he found out I was working double shifts, he showed up at the hospital with takeout and sat in the break room just to keep me company during lunch. He listened, he noticed, he remembered every detail I didn't even think I'd said aloud. The first time he met my dad, Colonel James Camden, former Airborne Division, a man who didn't trust anyone, Trevor shook his hand, looked him straight in the eye, and said, "Sir, I don't just love your daughter, I admire her." And for the first time in my life, my father smiled at a man I was dating. He even clapped Trevor on the back when he left. "That one's solid, kid," he told me. "You picked a good one." And I believed it. So did everyone else. To the outside world, Trevor was a dream. Handsome, brilliant, successful. Polished without being arrogant. Gentle without being weak. He had that lawyer charisma, but without the usual ego that came with it. And for a while, I truly believed I had found the man who would protect me, honor me, cherish me. He told me things like, "I can't wait to grow old with you. You're everything I never knew I needed. Let me take care of you." I didn't know that someday those words would twist around me like chains. But back then, I thought I was living the love story every little girl dreams of. The wedding was perfect. Golden light poured through the stained glass windows of the old chapel, wrapping around us like a blessing. My white dress floated like a dream. My dad walked me down the aisle in his military blues, his hand firm on mine, his eyes wet with quiet pride. And there at the altar stood Trevor, smiling like a man who had just won the whole world. When he took my hands in his, he leaned in just enough for me to hear his whisper, "You'll never have to worry again, Mia. I'll take care of everything now, always." That was the moment I believed I was safe, not just loved, but protected. The reception felt like a fairy tale. String lights danced over white linen tables, jazz music floated through the garden air, and every guest beamed at us like we were a storybook ending. He kissed my forehead every 5 minutes, told me I looked like an angel, and I believed that I was walking into a life of warmth and partnership. So I made promises too. I told myself I would support him like a good wife. I would step back a little from work, stop taking night shifts, say no to weekend rotations. After all, Trevor's job was demanding. He was on track to make partner at the firm. I figured he'll carry us financially, and I'll carry us emotionally. That's what a team does, right? I didn't realize yet that this support would slowly turn into sacrifice, and that every little piece I gave up, I would never get back. The first crack didn't come with shouting, it came with silence. 3 weeks after our honeymoon, I picked up a few things from the market. Nothing crazy, some fruit, candles, his favorite brand of coffee. We had just moved into our new home, his mother's gift to us, and I wanted it to feel cozy, like ours. Trevor came home, glanced at the counter, and picked up the receipt. He didn't say hello. His voice was flat. $83? Are you serious? I laughed, thinking he was teasing. Well, the coffee alone is 12, and I grabbed those scented candles you love. We're not made of money, Mia, he snapped. You're spending like a spoiled rich girl. I froze. Spoiled rich girl? I was raised by a single military father. There were no ski trips, no designer bags. We wore hand-me-downs and bought everything on sale. I had saved every penny through nursing school, worked weekends, skipped vacations, but still, I said nothing. I smiled, cleared the counter, and told myself, he's just stressed. The promotion is taking a toll. He didn't mean it. Then came the first time he corrected the way I folded the towels. Then the first time he rolled his eyes when I told a story at dinner. Then the time he scrolled through his phone while I cried quietly on the couch after a long shift. They weren't red flags yet, just little moments, little things that didn't feel right. But when you're in love, you make excuses, and I made 1,000 of them. They say when you marry someone, you marry their family too. I just didn't realize I was marrying into a monarchy. Vivian Brennan didn't need a crown. To rule her was sharp enough. She walked into every room like she owned the oxygen in it. And from the moment I became her daughter-in-law, I was no longer Mia. I was Trevor's wife. And Trevor's wife had rules. My wardrobe, too plain. You're representing a future partner at one of the best law firms in the city, Mia. Try something more elegant. My hair, too casual. You're not in college anymore, dear. Straighten it. Pull it back. Respectable women don't wear it down. My cooking, too simple. I suppose casseroles are acceptable for church potlucks. Even the candle scent I chose for the living room, too floral. You don't want guests thinking you're trying too hard. She criticized everything, from the throw pillows to the color of the salad plates. She even rearranged my spice rack without asking. And every time she did it, Trevor said nothing. If I ever pushed back, if I even sighed too loudly, she'd blink slowly and say, I only want what's best for you, dear. Don't be so sensitive. It wasn't just control, it was erasure. Vivian didn't want a daughter-in-law. She wanted a reflection. And every day I was vanishing a little more. If Vivian was the queen, Belle was the royal echo. She didn't shout, she didn't glare. Belle smiled, always smiling, always sweet. Always starting her sentences with, don't take this the wrong way, Mia, but... And then came the little digs, dressed up as compliments, wrapped in satin and laced with poison. You have such a unique fashion sense. I wish I had the confidence to wear things like that. Oh my God, you actually made this yourself? That's adorable. You work at that hospital. Wow, that's so humble of you. She'd lean close, whisper in my ear like we were friends, and then laugh a little too loud at my expense. And worst of all, Trevor thought it was funny. I remember one dinner I wore a simple navy dress with sleeves rolled just above the elbow. Belle tilted her head and said, Oh, you didn't have time to change after work? I blinked. I did. Why? She smiled, biting her lip like she was holding back. Nothing. It's just, you're brave. I could never show my arms without toning them first. I looked down at my arms, then back at my plate, then I smiled, because that's what I was supposed to do. Smile, laugh with them, play along in their perfect little world of pretty cruelty. Belle wasn't just playing along. She was mastering the art of mockery disguised as grace. And with every harmless joke, she helped build the walls of the cage I was being locked in. At first, I waited for him to step in. Each time Vivian made a snide remark, each time Belle wrapped an insult in silk, each time I stood there shrinking, swallowing tears, I looked at Trevor and waited. He never raised his voice. He never pulled me aside afterward and said, I'm sorry about what they said. He never put a hand on my shoulder in front of them and said, that's enough, Mom. Instead, he laughed. He'd chuckle when Vivian called my lasagna quaint. He'd smirk when Belle joked about my clothes or my salary. And worst of all, when he saw me hurting, he didn't look angry. He looked annoyed. Mia, you've got to stop taking everything so personally. They're just being themselves. You're too sensitive. You need to grow up. And the first time he saw me cry in front of them, not a word of comfort, just that cold, disappointed shake of his head. Then he whispered, "Come on, Mia, seriously, in front of my family?" That moment broke something in me. Because in that moment, I realized I wasn't just unprotected. I was outnumbered. Trevor wasn't caught in the middle. He was on their side, and maybe he always had been. Everything had to be perfect. Trevor said it at least 5 times that morning. Tonight decides everything, Mia. One wrong move and it's over. He was finally hosting Mr. Braxton, the senior partner, at his law firm. This dinner could be the final push toward a full partnership. The title, the salary, the prestige. It wasn't just a meal. It was a performance, and I was expected to play my part flawlessly. So I did what I always did. I worked, I planned, I executed. I spent hours polishing the silverware until I could see my own reflection blink back at me. I arranged the floral centerpiece 3 times because Belle said the lilies looked too desperate. Vivian hovered over my shoulder, moving forks, changing plates, adjusting napkin folds. "Don't embarrass Trevor," she whispered more than once. "He's under enough pressure." I cooked all day caramelized onion tarts, filet mignon with rosemary, and a 3-layer lemon cake from scratch. Everything made from memory, everything he liked, everything they approved of. And still, it wasn't enough. "This tablecloth is too plain," Vivian frowned. "Your dress is fine, I suppose," Belle added, "but maybe wear something more forgiving." Trevor walked through the house like a film director before opening night. He didn't compliment the food. He didn't notice the hours I spent making sure his wine glasses didn't have a single fingerprint. He just straightened his cufflinks and said, "Let's not make this about you, okay?" I nodded. Of course. It was never about me. The evening shimmered with tension masked as elegance. The crystal clinked, laughter echoed, everyone was charming. Mia smiled polite but quiet as always. She stayed behind the scenes until Mrs. Evelyn Braxton, wife of the firm's most powerful partner, turned to her and asked gently, "Mia, dear, what do you do?" It was innocent, kind, curious. And Mia, ever the honest soul, answered softly, "I'm a pediatric nurse. I work in the oncology wing. We treat children with cancer." The room froze, not dramatically, just subtly, uncomfortably. Vivian's fork paused mid-air. Belle sipped her wine a little too quickly. And Trevor? He stared at Mia like she had just spilled red wine on the carpet. Embarrassed, annoyed, furious. "Wow, that must be difficult," Mrs. Braxton said gently, trying to move on. But Mia, bless her, kept going. "It's heartbreaking sometimes, yes, but it's also beautiful. Kids are so brave. Just yesterday, a little boy gave me a drawing after his treatment." She didn't see Trevor's knuckles tightening on the stem of his glass. He said I reminded him of hope. A beat. Laughter resumed. The conversation shifted to something lighter, but the damage was done. Behind the polite smiles, Mia had stolen the spotlight. She had spoken from the heart in a room full of masks, and Trevor would not forgive that. Mia had just finished speaking. Her words about the children, raw, tender, honest, still hung in the air. But then Trevor laughed, not loudly, but sharp enough to slice the moment in half. "Let's not exaggerate, darling," he said with a smirk. "She's just a regular nurse, nothing dramatic." The room tensed, but no one said a word. Mia blinked. Just a regular nurse? She had held dying babies, held mothers who screamed. worked double shifts through blood and fear and grief. Vivian chuckled, sipping her wine. Yes, dear, you always were overly sentimental, she added with that tone, that poisonous tone. Belle smiled sweetly, but her eyes gleamed with cruelty. And Mia, she sat there, smiling, frozen, like porcelain, like breaking glass. But something inside her cracked, quietly, like ice melting under pressure. She realized something. This wasn't a marriage. It was a performance, and she wasn't allowed to speak from the heart. The last guest had just left. The door clicked shut. Silence fell over the room. Trevor loosened his tie, turned to Mia, eyes blazing. "Do you have any idea what you just did?" he hissed. "You humiliated me. You made me look weak." Mia stood there, hands trembling. I was just answering her question. "You embarrassed me in front of the managing partner," he snapped, talking like some bleeding heart volunteer. Before Mia could reply, smack, his hand struck her face. It echoed through the marble hall like a gunshot. Vivian laughed, loud and delighted. "Well, someone had to do it," she smirked. Belle crossed her arms, nodding slowly. Maybe now she'll learn her place. Mia didn't cry. She didn't speak. She just stood there, her cheek burning, her soul retreating. But then, click. The front door creaked open. Boots, heavy, firm. Footsteps echoed. A voice calm, powerful, cut through the tension like steel. "Take your hands off my daughter." Fade to black. The room froze. Trevor's hand was still in midair. Vivian's smile stiffened. Belle's breath hitched. And Mia's eyes locked onto the doorway. She knew that voice. From the shadows stepped a man in full military dress uniform. His medals gleamed under the chandelier light. His spine was ramrod straight. Flanking him, 2 soldiers in tactical gear, silent, motionless, deadly. Colonel James Camden, a legend in the U.S. Army, and tonight, a father. I said, "Take your hands off my daughter." No one moved. No one dared to move. Trevor opened his mouth, but the colonel raised one hand, calm, cold, final. "You don't speak, you listen, for once in your coward life." Vivian tried to interject. "This is..." "You stay silent," he said, voice like stone, "or I'll let my men escort you out." Belle shrank back behind a pillar. The colonel turned to Mia. His eyes softened only for her. "I'm sorry it took me this long." Mia's lips trembled, and then she nodded just once. A storm was coming, and James Camden was its eye. Colonel Camden didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. From his coat pocket, he pulled out a thick envelope, sealed, stamped, marked, confidential. 3 months, he said, eyes locked on Trevor. "That's how long I've watched you. Every lie, every bruise, every insult you thought no one heard." He handed the folder to one of the soldiers. The soldier placed it squarely on the table next to the untouched wine glasses and the remnants of dessert. Trevor stared at it frozen. James opened it for him. One by one, he laid them out. Photos of Mia's bruised arms, her swollen cheek, her stitched temple. Screenshots of texts. "You embarrassed me again. Next time I won't stop at slapping." Medical reports, dates, doctors, diagnoses, domestic abuse. Vivian paled. Belle's eyes darted from page to page. "These," the colonel said, "have been sent to the law firm, to the medical board, to every board and donor list your mother is on, and to the fiancé of your precious sister." He looked around the room, calm as a winter night. "This is not revenge. This is protection." Then he looked at Mia, and it's only the beginning. It began at 9 a.m. the next morning. Trevor walked into his law firm calm and collected until he was met by HR and security. "Your access has been revoked," they said. "You're under investigation for domestic abuse and ethical misconduct." 30 minutes later, his photo and name were scrubbed from the firm's website. By noon, his clients had been reassigned. By nightfall, his apartment had been emptied. The bank had frozen his accounts due to financial discrepancies uncovered by a whistleblower. That whistleblower, Colonel Camden. Vivian arrived at her women's charity gala that night only to be stopped at the door. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Camden," the receptionist whispered. "You're no longer on the guest list." On social media, screenshots of Mia's injuries and Vivian's smiling face at dinners with abusers went viral. Donors pulled out. Sponsors issued statements. By morning, Vivian's Queen of Philanthropy title was a punchline on late-night comedy. Belle tried to salvage what was left, but her fiancé had already seen the photos, the texts, the video where she laughed as Mia was humiliated. "You're no better than them," he said, placing the ring on the table. She begged, but he didn't look back. She canceled the wedding and checked herself into therapy. From the ashes of one night, a dynasty fell. Silence was no longer safety, and every mask cracked. But just when it felt like justice was served, a knock came at Mia's new apartment. A white envelope, no sender. Inside, one sentence: "You think this is over?" Mia didn't take much. Not the expensive jewelry Trevor bought to apologize. Not the designer shoes Vivian insisted she wear. Not the framed photo from the fake anniversary dinner Belle posted on Instagram. No. Mia packed just one suitcase and one thing that mattered: her grandmother's quilt. Faded blue, soft from years of use, still smelling faintly of lavender and home. "You don't need much to start over," Mia whispered to herself. "You just need something real." She looked around the penthouse one last time. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, a kitchen she was never allowed to use. All of it cold, all of it empty. She didn't cry. She just walked slow, steady down the hall, down the elevator, and into the night. It was raining. She didn't mind, because for the first time in years, she wasn't walking away from someone. She was walking toward herself. The divorce hearing lasted only 20 minutes. Trevor showed up in a wrinkled suit, dark circles under his eyes. Vivian came too, in pearls and shame. Belle stayed home. Mia, she walked in alone, wearing a navy blue suit and no makeup, no lawyer, no entourage, just truth. Trevor tried to speak. "Mia, I wasn't thinking." She raised a hand, calm, direct. "You don't get to speak for me anymore." Vivian clutched her purse, whispering, "I know we've made mistakes, dear, but surely we can talk this through." Mia looked at her. 1 second, 1 breath. "I'm not your dear, and I don't owe you my peace." When the judge banged the gavel and declared the marriage dissolved, Mia didn't smile. She simply nodded. Not in celebration, but in closure. Back outside, she sat on the courthouse steps alone but calm. No one rushed to congratulate her. No champagne, no dramatic music, just the wind. And in it, for the first time, silence didn't feel empty. It felt like freedom. The hospital smelled the same: disinfectant, coffee, and something deeper, a sense of purpose Mia hadn't felt in years. The staff looked up when she walked in. Some smiled, some whispered, but Dr. Alvarez walked straight up and said, "Welcome home, Camden." Mia smiled, really smiled, for the first time in a long, long while. She threw herself into the work. Late nights, soft lullabies to sick children, notes to grieving parents, hugs for nurses who had no one to cry with. That's when she met Lisa, quiet, over-apologetic, jumping every time someone raised their voice. Mia recognized the signs too well. "You don't have to tell me everything," Mia said gently. "Just know that I believe you, and I'm here." Lisa cried, not from fear, but from finally being seen. Mia didn't just return to work. She returned as someone rebuilt, someone stronger, someone who now saved more than just patients. She saved women like herself. No groom, no white veil, no promises of forever made to someone else. Just Mia, in a quiet garden behind her old church, barefoot in the grass, hair undone, holding a single vow card in her hand. The card read, "I will never again beg to be loved. I will never again explain my worth. I will never again dim my light so others can feel brighter." The guests were few, just those who truly knew her. A nurse, a childhood friend, her father misty-eyed, and Lisa holding a candle. Mia looked at the mirror placed before her as if it were a person and whispered, "I choose you, in joy, in pain, in healing, in becoming. I will not leave you behind again." And with that, she slipped a silver ring onto her own finger. Her father wiped a tear. Lisa smiled. And the wind carried the vow far beyond that little garden. It carried it into hearts who forgot. You can love yourself, fiercely, first. There were no photographers, no applause, no trending hashtags, just the rustling of leaves. And Mia's voice, clear, steady, trembling only once. She placed her hand on her heart and said, "I vow to listen to the voice I once silenced. I vow to believe myself even when no one else does. I vow to love myself, especially when it's hard. And I vow to reach back to lift other women who are still kneeling in rooms they don't belong in." A soft silence followed, but in that quiet, the promise felt louder than any wedding anthem. Lisa reached out and held her hand. Her father nodded, proud, broken, healing. And Mia, she closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and smiled. Not the smile of someone saved, but the smile of someone reborn. He had watched her cry for 3 years, from behind screens, from behind closed doors. As a father, he had felt helpless, but not tonight. As Mia stepped down from the garden altar, her father walked toward her, slow, steady, like a soldier returning to a daughter he once couldn't protect. He didn't say much. He just took her hand, cupped it between both of his, and whispered, "You didn't need me to save you. You did it yourself. You saved yourself, Mia." For a moment, she was a little girl again in his arms, safe, seen, whole. And when he pulled her into his embrace, the tears came, not from pain, but from pride, from the kind of healing that only comes when someone finally sees you not as broken, but as brave. To the woman reading this, maybe you've been quiet for too long. Maybe your smile hurts. Maybe your silence has started to sound like consent. I know that feeling because I lived it. You're not crazy, you're not dramatic, you're not too much for wanting the bare minimum respect, kindness, safety. They told me I was too emotional, that I shouldn't ruin his reputation, that I was lucky he even chose me. But they were wrong, and deep down, I knew it. So here's what I want to say to you. You can leave. You can start over. You don't need to be perfect to be worthy, and you are not alone. You are not just someone's wife. You are not someone's burden. You are not a mistake. You are a storm that survived the silence. And I promise on the other side of fear, there is you, a version of you that smiles because she wants to, a version that chooses her own name and signs her own freedom. So when you're ready, walk, run, crawl if you must, but go, and I'll be here waiting to cheer you on. Love, Mia Camden. The letter didn't end with Mia. 1 week later, Lisa, the young nurse Mia had mentored, printed it out, folded it gently, and brought it to the women's support circle at the hospital. She didn't speak much, just laid the letter in the center of the table and whispered, This helped me. Maybe it'll help you too." One by one, they read it, some with tears, some with disbelief. By the end of the session, there were 12 copies and a quiet agreement to pass it on. Within a month, that letter had been folded, passed, and held by dozens of women, each one holding a different kind of pain, each one searching for the same thing, a reason to believe in herself again. It wasn't loud, it wasn't viral, but it was real. And sometimes that's how revolutions begin, with a whisper, with a folded letter, with one woman telling another, "You're not alone, and you don't have to stay." Mia stands alone in her apartment, no designer decor, no expensive art, just the morning sun casting gold on her grandmother's old quilt and the sound of a kettle boiling. She smiles, not because someone told her to, not because she's pretending, but because she finally knows she is safe, she is enough, she is home. This isn't the version of life she was promised in fairy tales. It's not perfect, it's not polished, but it's hers, and that makes it beautiful. As she sips her tea, she opens her journal. On the first page she writes, "You can't destroy a woman who refuses to stay broken." And just like that, the story ends, not with a prince, not with revenge, but with something far rarer, peace and power, earned, owned, and never again given away. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from what's breaking you, even if the world calls it success, even if love once lived there. Mia's story reminds us that healing isn't about revenge. It's about reclaiming your voice, choosing peace over fear, and building a life that finally fits your worth. No one, no spouse, no parent, no system has the right to silence your pain or decide your value. You do. So take up space, speak your truth, and never forget, you are not broken. You are becoming. If Mia's story moved you, if you saw a part of yourself in her silence or her strength, then this is your space. Subscribe to our channel for more true stories of courage, healing, and rebirth. Share this video with someone who needs to know you are not alone. And tell us in the comments, what moment in Mia's story hit you the hardest? Let's keep the circle going.